Councillor Chrissy Rumsby. I'm on the County Council of Emma, and I represent Marcross, which is one of the most deprived areas not only in Norwich but actually in the UK. While being a councillor at Marcross, I've come across so many problems that actually I just realised that just working as a council normally does, it would not be effective, and that actually we need to actually work with the community and actually do practical things. We began with doing a Sunday social, first Sunday of the month, getting stuff from the food hub and actually giving people free food. The congregation came as well to the local church, and people started socialising, and I was beginning to grasp that actually there was a major problem with hunger, with children and families. And basically, at the same time I was thinking, well, how can I sort this out? You know, I haven't got all the time because I work as well as a mental health nurse. As luck had it, I then get an email from Unite Community, from John Woodhouse, that said, would you be interested in this, and could you, help us get in contact with the local school and various other people? So absolutely fine, I know all these people, I'm thinking something like this as well. So we met with Brian and everyone else, and it is a total collaboration between sort of like me as a councillor and Unite Community, and I think at the best, community organising at its best, where actually Labour and the unions actually work together. And basically started, we sort of like St Catherine's Church, slowly really, wasn't it, to begin with. But actually, we did get quite a few people come, and we realised there was major problems with universal credit and things like that. Then suddenly universal credit rolled out, and that year it really, really got bad. And I think Brian will say the same as me, is I've seen hunger in people, I've seen children hungry, but last summer I've never seen children as hungry as they were, and mothers coming had not actually had no food. There are some major problems with universal credit and the way people were being sanctioned. So one part of us had to sort of like sort out the universal credit bit, which Unite Community helped with, because a lot of them have been trained to help with universal credit. And the other half for us were actually trying to find ways, practical ways to feed these families. It's a total disgrace to see in this country people fainting because they have not eaten. In this country is a disgrace. It should never happen. I mean, only very rarely. But this was like a whole community. We had people working, coming from miles around, a good 5 miles, walking to get food. This is what's happening, and the only way to change something is to actually do something practical, and that's what we've been doing. Every month I pay for Equal Lives, which is Lisa, who actually is a Unite Community as well. She runs a surgery for Equal Lives every week to help people with their universal credit, because those forms, it takes someone with expertise to do 2 hours, let alone if you have no expertise. You can see why people give up. We now started running a day, sort of like during the day, haven't we, sort of like a weekly drop-in, where people are coming, and they're coming hungry, they're coming with problems with universal credit, but actually we see an increase of women actually coming, which is unusual for Marcross, to actually come to actually get help with their domestic violence. Which is sad to see in many respects, but actually good to see, because actually people are trying to seek help now. Do you know what I mean? But with poverty and everything else, and everyone arguing, and it's no excuses for violence, there's no excuse for violence at all, but you're seeing an increase with that within, these areas. It's community campaigning, and actually meaning something to that community, because I think that's really important. Sometimes when we're in politics, we get a bit carried away with what we think is important to people, which actually doesn't mean anything to them. They'll look at you thinking, what are you bothered about that for, It's about the Labour Party, I think, really getting down to the grassroots and helping in communities and actually being a good part of the community, and people actually saying, yeah, they actually do care. They're not just talking it, they're doing it. And I think sort of like, my community is a pretty damn tough community, and it's a Leave community. So it's been very hard the last 3 years within that community, but actually seeing me there actually doing something practical, like having a packed lunch or try to sort out a problem, is actually getting to think, actually, they do care about our communities. They're not just talking it to get a bit of publicity or something like that. Actually, Labour does mean something with community unions.
Goal is to organise the community and obviously prevent the right wing from getting a foothold in Malcross, which is a vulnerable community. It's not only about universal credit, it's about the benefit freeze. The benefit freeze has cost the average claimant about 15% of their purchasing power. And this year it peaks. This is the most acute year for claimants not being able to live on the bird shit less VAT that they give them in benefits. And so I think we've really got a really big problem in 2020. Now, if somebody had said to me in January of 2019 that we would be providing 3,500 meals, that we would provide nearly 250 Christmas hampers in Great Yarmouth, including 600 toys, which when all the other charities joined in came to 2,000 toys, because when we were discussing the project in Yarmouth, very early on, parents said to us, please include toys, we can't afford toys. So Christmas without toys is like air without oxygen. It's just not right, but that's the depth of poverty that's now breaking out. And also one of the goals we did with the Holiday Hunger Project, which we got national coverage, local coverage, we've been on the BBC ITV, the EDP, and a few other stations, is to repel this argument that, you know, claimants are shirkers, or undeserving shirkers, to show that there's real hardship there and real damage being done to families and particularly children. So I'm really proud of what we've achieved. We've worked very closely with the Labour Party. Now, I've left Unite Community forms if anybody wants to join, which I hope you will, because we're a really active and growing branch. You can join Community if you're unemployed, you're a pensioner, student, but if you're self-employed or part-time working or full-time working, you can't. And it costs about £2.90 a month, so it's not very, very expensive. But I think Chrissy will share this with me, saying that we think that every Labour Party member should be a trade unionist as well. Mm. The other thing we've done, and I've left leaflets there, is the new drop-in centre we're doing on a Mondays at the Phoenix, which is where communities like the Sun, and we're drawing in all these planets, all other groups, to try and help us give a fully formed, fully fledged service ranging from advice, helping fill out forms, all the way to domestic violence. So we're working with a lot of other groups to be able to provide this, and I think that's the way we build links organically in the community. They get to trust us, which they're beginning to. It takes a lot of hard work, but politics in the end has to be practical.
We wanted to find a way of having somewhere where people could come with dignity, where they didn't feel they were in a passive position, where they were in receipt of something. So we set up a community lunch using food waste. So what we say is basically come and help reduce food waste and have a community lunch. So Food Hub, which is a charity in Norwich that works with most of the supermarkets now, and they collect, their volunteers go and collect surplus food on different days from the different supermarkets. We were really lucky. The Saturday night pick-up is Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's, and we run on a Sunday morning. It is amazing what would have been thrown away. On average, we use probably around between 40 and 50 kilograms of food each time we run, which we were saved from what would have been thrown out. And we work with a local, he calls himself an artisan baker. He's absolutely fantastic. He freezes all the loaves he doesn't sell during the week that we don't operate, and gives us everything on a Sunday, and that's really good quality bread that lasts for ages as well. We have a donations pot out, so it's free. It's on a donate what you can. basis so people have dignity. We never check what people put in, but we know most people like the act of putting something in so they're not just passively receiving something. It might be a couple of pence, some people don't. We've also had other people come in quite accidentally, get what we're about, know it might not be for them, so someone left 20 quid for a bowl of soup before because of they kind of got what we were doing. When we ask people why they come, the biggest impact we have is on reducing loneliness and isolation, although that isn't why we set up. People try a much broader range of things to eat than they ordinarily would have done because we never know what we're going to get. It is like we had to, what do we do? Basically a turnip and swede curry. The other weeks we got there, we never know what you're going to get. There were a couple of crates of swede and some other random stuff. But because it's there and that's the only meal that's there, people will try things, and then any surplus fresh fruit and vegetable there is, people take it away. But what we have is, can you help us out by taking food home so it doesn't go to waste? It's not like come here if you haven't got enough, so it's a dynamic. So that's 4 years we've been working in that community, and we've done a lot of other projects as well. Voter turnout in that area used to be around 20%. At the last election, turnout in that area was broadly similar to the £1 million houses on the outskirts of the ward that I represent, and that has been a hard slog of building those relationships for a few years before people are ready to listen to the political message. So now we can knock on doors and do the politics because people know who we are, whereas a few years ago they wouldn't have been willing to listen to that. Just picking up on what somebody said earlier about safeguarding, we run as a community cafe. People are responsible for their own children. The people that coordinate it, we're safeguarding trained, and our volunteers have got level food hygiene certificates as well, but nobody is ever working unsupervised. We make numerous referrals, safeguarding referrals, particularly for vulnerable adults that come in, and you look around what's going on. We've picked up on a couple of people that have been cuckooed. I had their flat taken over. Someone said, oh, can I take a few extra meals home because I've got some friends staying in my flat. Someone that we'd never seen in the company of anybody else at all. It turned out they had their flat taken over and 45 grams worth of cannabis was removed from their flat. They'd been sleeping in the bath for about a month because both rooms in the flat were taken over by people growing. And that was just through him coming into the cafe for months and months and months. And it's just, what do you mean you've got people staying in your flat? Why does your back hurt? Why have you been sleeping in your bath? So that went in as a safeguarding referral. The police went round and did a welfare check. So actually the knock-on impact is there, and that was relatively easy to set up, and it was a good way to engage people because you're reducing food waste. So it's probably a bit more of a challenge to organise that something a big geographical area across North Norfolk, but if you decide you want to start something like that in one area and can get a relationship with one of the supermarkets, you're saving them money as well because they have to pay a charge for any food they throw away, so you have to be really vigilant with them to make sure they don't slip in anything that's actually gone off. So we had a few months where we were taking stuff back to Waitrose because they were sickness and stuff, but actually so they will be keen to do it because they have to quite rightly pay for what they throw away. So it's a slightly different model. The community that represents is probably a lot more mixed than Mile Cross, so it kind of works well, so you get people that might not be suffering necessarily with the same level of financial poverty, but are not having anyone to speak to day to day. So it brings kind of quite a wide range of people in, and a lot of families as well. We've just done our 4th Christmas Day. We do a proper, full, all singing, all dancing Christmas dinner. We usually feed that between 25 and 30 people, and we do home deliveries to anyone that can't get there as well. So me and Karen do that while our partner cook our Christmas dinner when we get home, and that's been really successful over the last few years. So it's just a slightly different model, but with the same aims and the same impact.